broadcast, onda event.
Okay. The broadcast has started. Okay, guys, will start in a minute.
About 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. Okay. So how?
Yes.
So, and screen 2. That's the correct. Okay, great. That's it. Sad biti možeš. Mislim da tu možemo sad uključiti full screen.
Ali vi to radi tako da mogu vidjeti ovdje što se događa.
Link trebaš. Čekaj, šta nema? Hangout je na...
Što je ovo?
Da, Hangout ne. Ok, ajde onda bih htio samo da vidim ovo.
To je samo a ne pitam.
To nešto. Čekaj, kažemo posle prezentacije.
Posle svih prezentacija. Što kasnije Hangout na minutu prije, ne glupo čekati. Nakon svih prezentacija ćemo govoriti.
Pitanja ovdje u opciji će biti odmah posle prezentacije.
Poslije,
kak radi stream? Čuje se.
Već i 6.
Ajde, imamo naš koliko viewera na Hangoutsu. A onak kasni.
Até que eu gosto aqui, uns bichos. É mal mentor.
Što ti treba?
3 minute krećemo.
Moraš i onak biti ovdje da se čuje. Moraš i onak stati ovdje da se čuje.
Znači ovo smijesti. Sad ovdje pa će baš treba da ćemo spojiti.
Ti spre. Čekaj da vidim koja je repertoar danas. Hello guys, we will now be starting with the presentations. We will answer to your questions at the end of the talk. Došli na 10. Android Talkse koje organiziramo u Infinumu. Mislim da ste velika većina već bili ovdje prije, oni koji nisu, drago da ste došli. Osim toga, što sam htio reći prije nego počnemo sa prezentacijama, bilo bi nam jako drago da se prijavite na ovaj mail i da možda dođete podržati neko predavanje, jer mi polako već predstavimo neke pametne ideje. Mislim, imamo ali svejedno, bilo bi jako dođe. Okej? Osim toga, ovako, ne bih htjeli prezentirati, ali ako imate neku ideju što bi htjeli čuti na nekim sljedećim talksima, pošaljite. Ako znamo, isprezentirat ćemo to. Osim toga, prva prezentacija je Kušt sa prezentacijom o jeziku Grooviju i kako ga možemo koristiti za Android. Druga prezentacija je, drugi po redu je Kocijan je drugi po redu sa prezentacijom o libraryima koje najviše koristimo trenutno u Infinumu u zadnje vrijeme. I treći na redu je Vinković sa prezentacijom o material design animacijama, uglavnom više pozornost na implementaciju tih animacija. Eto, to je to i možemo početi s prezentacijom. I da, pošto streamamo u prezentaciji će biti na engleskom svaki prezentaciji.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ivan, and I will be talking about Groovy and how to set up Groovy on Android. So for the start, Java on Android. Well, it's okay, but as you've noticed, it's behind. Java on Android is behind desktop Java. We still don't have Java 8 on Android, and we don't have things like Lambda expressions and stuff that come with Java 8. So generally, you have to write a lot of boilerplate code, and we don't have the latest and greatest on Android. So what would be the step forward? Groovy. Well, what is Groovy? Oh, sorry. Groovy is an optionally typed dynamic language, and it also compiles into Java bytecode. So logically, it can be compiled into Dalvik format as well. To give you an example of Groovy towards Java, let's say you have the following code snippet. You want to start something on a different thread in the background. So this is how you would do it in Java, and this is how you would do it in Groovy. So in Groovy, basically, you would use a Groovy utility method thread.start, and you would use closure in which you would provide the code that's running in the background. As you can see, it's a lot less boilerplate and it's easier to read. Okay, I've mentioned all these things. Groovy is still type safe. You can choose whether you want to play type safe or you want dynamic typing, and it's still fast. Some of the other benefits of Groovy is that a lot of stuff that you have to write in Java, like semicolons or parentheses or stuff like that, with some keywords, you don't have to write them in Groovy. So again, less typing. There is a typo. Not all Java is valid Groovy, and you'll see an example later. Almost all Java is valid Groovy. So let's go on a comparison of Groovy with Java. I will provide to import by hand. You don't have to type. This is imported in you write by default. There are some special operators, like the famous Elvis operator. Basically, if you turn your head, you'll see Elvis. What it does is that in the first line, if the person.name is null, you will unknown string will be assigned to the name variable. If it's not null, it will be assigned. So it's an easy way to implement it. And the question mark dot operator, which basically you don't have to check. So when you're assigning name, you don't have to check if the person is null. If the person is null, null will be assigned to the name variable. And if the person is not null, then person.name will be assigned. Okay, we just have some technical difficulties, so excuse me for a minute till I set up the camera. Yeah. Just a second.
Just press the screen share. The second one from the top. Right. Okay, and now it's share screen too. And yes.
Okay.
And it should work.
Okay. Basically, we have a problem with Hangouts when the screen sharing stops and the people who watch the broadcast see my face after some time. So if any of you has an idea why that's happening, I'll buy him a beer. Okay. No. More technical problems? No. Jesus. This is getting better and better by the minute. Yeah. Okay, we're back in the game. So I was speaking about Elvis and the question mark dot operator. Explained all that. So the second difference is initializers, and this is where that point where I said not almost all Java is valid Groovy. This initialization of an array in Java isn't valid in Groovy because the block is reserved for closures. Some more additional available initializers in Groovy. You can initialize map easily, regular expressions, range, or define closures. Okay, one thing to take care of when using Groovy is the equals operator, because
I'm sorry, but
again,
technical difficulties. Just a second. We'll have to start the screen share again. Okay,
great. Okay. So back to the equals operator in Groovy. It works a little bit different than in Java. So it doesn't compare. If you're comparing references, it doesn't compare that it's the same reference. It actually calls compare to method if both of the objects are comparable, or if they're not comparable, it calls equals. So it will actually compare the value, as you might intuitively assume. Okay, another related thing is Groovy truth. So in Groovy, you don't have to write for strings. You don't have to write a check if you want to check that the string is contains something, that it isn't null, or that it contains some text. You would just write if and that string. You don't have to do all these checks as you have to do in Java. One interesting thing is that if you want to write package scope fields, you can do it the same way as you would do it in Java. This actually, the above code from Java in Groovy, it defines a property, and we'll talk about properties a little bit later. But for now, if you want to define a private field in Groovy, you would have to use the @package_scope annotation instead of just writing a string name. Another thing to really watch and take care about is if you have more overloaded methods, more variants of a method. For example, one method takes in a string as an argument, and the other one takes an object. And in Java, you would, of course, if you instantiate a string and assign it to an object, then pass it to that method. In Java, second method would be called, because the method to be called is resolved at compile time, and it's like, okay, somebody passed me an object, and I'm going to call the second version of the method. But in Groovy, it's a little bit different. The method which is going to be called is determined at runtime. So the first method will be called, even though you passed the object. I mean, you're actually passing a string, but through an object interface. And at runtime, the Groovy will detect, okay, this is actually a string, and I'm going to call the first method. Okay, now back to the properties that I've mentioned earlier. So in Java, for example, if you want to write a property, something that has a getter and a setter, you would have to write a private field called name, for example, and then manually write getters and setters for that field. And below you can see how you use Pokemon.setName. In Groovy, you don't have to do all that. You just write string name, and it will automatically generate the getters and the setters. And as an added bonus, you'll get you can pass that property value to the constructor by using name of the property as you would initialize a hash map in the initializers. So as you can see here, it's a lot less code. It's a lot less boilerplate code, especially if you're, I don't know, for example, working with RESTful APIs where you have to define models that will hold your data. You don't have to write all those getters and setters. Okay, next topic is annotation processing. I've mentioned the annotations, but they work a little bit different in Groovy. There's no annotation processing as it is done in Java, so apt tool won't be invoked, and it won't pass through all your classes, call the annotation processors, and generate additional code in different classes. Instead of that, we'll see in an your code with some other code. It's more like a macro than annotation processor. So for example, okay, you can see this code, but the point is that you don't see it because there's a lot of it. This is an implementation of an immutable class as it should be by Java standards. You have defined the two final properties, name and age, and you have a constructor that takes in those two properties. You have the getters for them. You have the proper implementation of the hash code function. You have proper implementation of the equals function and the toString function. In Groovy, to get all that, you have to import an immutable annotation and annotate your class with that. And it will generate all of this that you would manually have to write in Java. It will all be generated for you. So this is one of the best examples how you can save your time and don't have to type a lot of things. Okay, another useful.
I'm sorry.
Again, technical difficulties.
Yeah, some technical difficulties.
Okay, coffee break.
Okay, we'll try to. It stopped completely. No. Where's the cursor?
I think try to going right.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Oh, okay, it's here. It's here.
Oh, so to play a game, find cursor. We'll start the screen share again. Hopefully, this will work.
Click presentation.
Presenting to everyone. Okay, so back to Groovy.
Okay, for the guys watching it through Hangouts, sorry, we have some technical difficulties, and from time to time we lose the screen share, and we're trying our best to be responsive and get it back as soon as possible. Okay, to continue with the method from Groovy. Instead of, for example, you want to initialize a text view from code, and you want to set some properties to it, like, I don't know, name, size of the font, and color. You don't have to write view.something 3 times. You just use view.width in Groovy, and in this closure you can write name of the property equals something. It's, again, a little bit prettier and more elegant. Okay, another neat thing in Groovy is that you can read in files from I don't know, your local storage a bit easier by using closures. And well, you don't have to write all this boilerplate code to initialize your input stream and then read everything in. You just, okay, you have this method that's added to the file input stream that use with input stream, and then you pass in the file input stream argument and just read everything in. Okay, another really cool example is obtaining a response from a RESTful API. For example, you want to call get on an URL and parse the JSON response. You can easily do it in 4 lines. As defined here, you assign a string URL to a variable, then use JSON Florper class, which is again part of the standard Groovy libraries. It's practically a JSON parser. The cool thing here is that if you have a string URL, you just say to URL and then .text, and this will make a GET request to your URL and pass the result to your parse text method from JSON Florper, and you'll have everything parsed inside your commits variable, all the JSON structure, and then you can use it as you would use any JSON parsed object. Okay, this was just a few things, a few differences between Java and Groovy. If you want to see more of it, you can go to the following link. It's a part of the official Groovy documentation, which states all the differences between Groovy and Java. Okay, now for the interesting part. How would you set up a Groovy project on Android? So what do you have to do? Well, first of all, you would go setting up the usual blank project. So, okay, new project, you select your target platform, you select blank activity, fill out the names of your activity and your layout, and okay, you have a standard blank activity project. Okay, the second step is to add your class dependency to your build script. You have to apply Groovy plugin, and you have to compile, add a compile dependency for all your standard Groovy classes. After you've done that, you just have to rename all your .java files to .groovy. and Android Studio will recognize that as Groovy files and automatically color the syntax and give you autocomplete support for Groovy, for importing all the Groovy related classes and so on. At some point in your project, you will want to obfuscate your application, and you have to update your ProGuard file with the following rules to keep the Groovy classes and everything that's required in order to run your Groovy project. Okay. Again, technical difficulties. Okay, back in the game. So all this comes with a cost, as you might have imagined. So this is a chart, the table actually that gives you the overview how large would be. Okay, this is some example application that has one screen with a list of items that are downloaded. How large would be that APK when written in standard Java and when written as a Groovy project. So without ProGuard, there's a significant difference. Yeah, almost 2 megabytes of overhead from Groovy. But after you run it through ProGuard, it's a little bit better. You have, I don't know, 2 times the initial APK. It's still larger, but okay. It's the overhead of the Groovy classes that have to be inside your APK. Okay. One last thing before concluding. We're going to talk about the Groovy libraries. What can you use? What libraries can you use when you have a Groovy project? So basically, you can use all Android libraries. One thing to note is that annotation processing won't be run if you have if you include Dagger and Dagger compiler, the annotation processing won't be run on .groovy files. But the thing that you can do, you can mix Java code with Groovy code in your project. So, for example, if you name a class, if your classes have .java extensions, they'll be treated as standard Java files, and the annotation processing will be run on them. So I don't know, you can use some libraries that require annotation processing in your Java code in your project. And of course, that Java code can be used in Groovy as any other. Those Java classes can be used as any other Groovy classes. I would present one useful library ported for Groovy that's for injecting views. That's been ported to Groovy. It's called SwissKnife. Basically, you write the same annotations. Similar to ButterKnife, in Uncreate, you write SwissKnife inject. SwissKnife restore state is an optional method if you're using some annotations regarding to saving the state, and without compile dependency in your build.gradle. Oh, that's self-explanatory. Okay, now to sum all the things up, what's good about Groovy? You can write more concise, less boilerplate code. You have closures, which are cool, and you have. Okay, I don't have an example, but trust me, you have better exception stack traces when you're using Groovy enclosures than you would have in you would have if using Java 8 and Lambdas. If you haven't in Java 8, if you get an exception, for example, null pointer exception inside of your Lambda function, that would look not really human readable, and it's hard to debug. With Groovy, that's not the case. You'll get the exact line where your exception happened. The bad sides of everything, well, it's a little bit slower. I don't have any actual measurements for that, but it's a little bit slower. The APK is larger. I've shown you in the table a few slides ago. And you don't have annotation processing, which, okay, you can remedy that with combining Java code. To conclude, I'd say that Groovy is okay for smaller projects that you have to finish fast. It's it's a cool language to code in because it has a lot of syntax sugar, it has dynamic typing like, I don't know, Python or Ruby, but it all comes with a price in size and in performance. Okay, that's about Groovy. These are some resources, and you can ask questions if you like. Any questions? No questions? Okay.
You said that you can mix Java and Groovy files.
Yeah.
So can you like do, what if you do like models, which are Groovy files, which, so you don't have to do all the getters and setters and constructors and everything, and mix it with the Java files, with presenters, whatever. What will happen to that? Will it get much bigger? How exactly does it work?
You'll get that Groovy overhead. It's the same. If you're using anything from Groovy, you get all those classes from Groovy. Yeah. So it will work definitely, but yeah, you have that APK overhead. Anyone else? Well, okay. Then okay. Yes, Jacob, ask.
In your opinion, is Groovy the next big thing in Android? Will someday completely replace Java as a primary programming language for Android applications?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I know there's other candidates, and I haven't yet explored other alternatives. But if Groovy became a primary language, you know, instead of Java, well, I'd be happier. That's all I can say. Anything else? Well, okay, if that's it, I'll leave you with the next speaker, Ivan Kocijan.
Hi guys, my name is Ivan, and before we start, Kušt offered some kind of a drink for anyone who figures out why Hangouts loses connection. So I figured it out. We'll talk later about that. I know why it's happening. Okay. For all of you who watch us on Hangouts, I don't know if you watched since the beginning. We'll answer all of your questions at the end of all the presentations. Today, I'll be talking about Android libraries, which we use at Infinum on a daily basis. Here are some of these libraries. They're separated in some kind of categories, like views, API, database, testing, and other. So we can start with the first library. It's called the Discreet app rate. This is an awesome library because it helps us show the user, okay, if you like our app, can you rate it? But it's not intrusive, so the user almost does not notice it. He just clicks on that, and he goes to Google Play and rates our app. The next one is much more interesting. It's called ButterKnife. It's a view injection library. Basically, we like it and we use it because it helps us reduce the boilerplate code. As you can see here in this example, instead of using find view by ID to find this image view in our layout, we use annotation at inject view, add the ID of that image view in our layout, and after we call ButterKnife inject, we can use this image view anywhere in our code. This library can also be used in custom views, fragments, and activities, of course. So basically, we use it to save some time. Next one is the ViewPagerindicator. This is an indicator which is compatible with the ViewPager, and it will show you those little dots or those bars on the top, so that the user knows that there's some additional content, more images, more pages, so that he knows that he has to swipe. This is an example of a view pager, of the view pager indicator. These dots indicate on which image you are. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 7th image. So the user clearly knows that he can go left or right. He can swipe that. He can also press on the buttons and so on. Basically, it's not hard to use. You need to add it to your layout file. You add the page indicator. And I use here title page indicator, but there are a lot more, and you can check out on their website all indicators you can use. You can also use images and so on. And after you set the adapter on your view pager, you need to call set view pager on your page indicator. And that's it. It will work out of the box. It will automatically bind your page indicator to a view pager. One great tip, because everyone forgets this. If you want to use on-page change listener with a view pager, but you're using some kind of page indicator, you need to set that listener to page indicator, because it won't work if you set it on a view pager. And basically, it's really easy to add to your layout. You just need to add a circle image view from that library. You can also specify the width and border color. If you don't set anything, it won't have a border. Here I have set 2 dps width and white border on this dark gradle. Next one is called Android crop. Well, if your app requires from the user to crop any image, use this one. It provides you a very simple way to crop it. It's simple to configure, and it has a beautiful user interface, so that the users won't notice that they even exited the app. Actually, they didn't exit the app, they just started a new activity. But it really looks nice, and you'll see the example. First, if you want to use it, you'll need to declare, okay, technical difficulties, guys. You on the Hangouts now can see me. I know that's not good for you, so we'll switch back to presentations. Okay, this is Kusht's presentation, not mine. What happened to my presentation? Oh, here we are. Okay, we were talking about Android crop usage. You'll need to declare that activity in your manifest file. After that, you will need two URIs. One is the source. You'll pass the original image path to that URI, and the second one is where the cropped image will be saved. And after that, you call new crop, pass the first URI, pass where the output will be, and call method called start. And that's it. After the user crops the image, he can press cancel and OK. In your on activity result, you will receive OK. Result is OK, the image is cropped. And after that, you can do whatever you want with your image. And to show you how nice this user interface is, look at it. It's beautiful. You get two buttons, cancel and done. And you also, as you can see, I have to look at this each day because he sits next to me. So he's not part of the UI, so don't worry. And after, if the user presses done, on your activity result, you'll receive result OK. If he presses cancel, you'll receive result cancelled. And that's it. Next one is UniversalmageLoader. This is used to load some kind of images. For example, it's really pain in the ass to call set image resource, set image bitmap, or so on, so on. You'll get out of memory exceptions a lot, especially in your list views. That's why we use libraries for caching and downloading images from the internet or from file, from anything, basically. This is, I really, personally, I like this library. It's highly customizable, and you can choose to cache images on disk, on memory, or both. So if you want to use it, the hardest part is to set it up. Its configuration, I know you probably can't see all of this, but it has a lot of options. You can change how much size do you want to give him for disk cache, for memory cache. Do you want to write debug logs? You can choose to only cache in memory or only cache on disk, and so on. Basically, you have to play a little bit with this configuration, but when you figure it out, the only thing you need to do is call image loader get instance, and you have, basically there are two methods. One is display image. You can pass string, or there's another which takes file, resources, assets, anything you want. You pass as the first parameter, and the second parameter is an image view where you want to load that image. And that's it. It will load this image from web inside your image view. That's all. You can also call a different method. It's called load image. This will load the image, or from a file, or from something, and will give you a bitmap. So that's basically, and there's also one called load sync. So it doesn't create a new thread, it loads synchronize that image. It can be very useful. So the second one, the second library, is also regarding the image processing. It's basically the same as Universal Image Loader, but it's a bit faster, and you can use animated GIFs. And the cool thing about it, it uses custom HTTP URL connection. But if you want, you can use OkHttp or Wally or anything like that. It works a bit faster. I already said that the Universal Image Loader. And also, as the display image method in Universal Image Loader, it takes string or file or asset or anything, and then you say to him, okay, load this image into this image view. So it's really nice. And that's it. There's no configuration, nothing. Next one is Picasso. It does the same thing as Glide and Universal Image Loader. We used this before. We don't use it anymore. And I'll explain to you why, but basically it's the same as Glide. It has this downloading and caching library. It's really easy to use, and it will cache this on memory or on disk. How do you use it? The same way as Glide. The only thing is the first. You call Picasso with, you pass the context and load into which image view. Now, why did I told you about all of these three libraries? Basically, what did I try? I tried to load a really large image from web. Again, okay, we have again some technical difficulties. Just a second. And we're back. Okay, what was I talking about? I tried to load a really large image, which was 11 megabytes, inside an image view, without using any custom configuration for these three image libraries. And basically, Glide is by far the best. It's faster, it uses less memory, and so on. Universal Image Loader is okay. It's a bit slower, but it's way better than Picasso. Picasso didn't even load this image because he got out of memory exception. And that's it. You can load that image with the Picasso, but you need to add some kind of configuration. But the idea of this test was don't add any configuration, because if I would add a configuration to Universal Image Loader, it would probably, the results would probably be a lot better. And if you're using an image caching library, if you want something simple, use Glide. If you want something that's highly configurable and you want to choose what and when to cache, use Universal Image Loader. Don't use Picasso, it's old and it's not used anymore. So next one is JSON. Basically, it converts your Java models to a JSON string, or vice versa. If you have some kind of JSON string, it will convert that to your object. Just let's jump to an implementation. For example, if we have some kind of musician, and that musician has a name, surname, and it has some kind of genre. With JSON, you add annotations, add serialized name, and we pass the string here. So, okay, this will be a name, the second one will be surname, and the third one will be music down slash, I don't know how to say that, genre. And that's it. When you create a new object, new musician object, you can call new JSON to JSON musician. Just pass that object here. This method to JSON will return a string. This string will represent the JSON object. As you can see, this music genre is rock, and his name is Sinisha, and his surname is Woods, as you can see. It also works vice versa. If you pass this string into a method called from.json, it will parse this string, and it will create a musician object for you. This JSON is great, and it's used by the next library inline, Retrofit, basically to parse all of our responses out of the box so that we don't need to do anything special to parse them. So we use Retrofit to describe HTTP requests. We don't want to write a lot of boilerplate code, for example, for URL connection and so on. If you ever worked with Java and that, you know that there are, I don't know, 200 lines of code for one HTTP call. That's really bad, and we don't want to do it. Basically, you have URL parameter replacement. There's a query support. One of the best features of it, it has a multi-part request body upload, so you can upload some kind of images and something like that, and files. And here in that interface, you describe your HTTP call. This call will be get, and the link to that will be /Pokemon/ some kind of path Poke number. And the method is called get Pokemon. As you can see, this add path parameter will be dynamically changed in the code later. So we'll send the Poke number here for any Pokemon we want to get. Also, you supply a callback. If you supply a callback, this will be done on another thread. You can also say, instead of void, okay, I want to return Pokemon. That will be done on your main thread. So watch that. You create a new adapter. This is just a basic adapter. We only set the endpoint, which will be appended to this /Pokemon/Poke number. So basically, all of these calls will have the same endpoint. There are a lot of other customization, but check out their site for that. And we have some kind of static member which will create that Pokemon service. So how are we going to use it? We call API manager get Pokemon service, and we pass the Pokemon number as the first parameter, and supply some kind of callback. If the callback was successful, it will return on success. If the HTTP call failed for any reason, it will return on failure. So in your success method, you'll get a Pokemon object. On this Pokemon object, again, okay, Technical difficulties, part 3. And we're back. I'm getting faster and faster in this. Okay, I was saying about the Pokemon object, which is returned on success. We actually use JSON to describe the serialized name for that Pokemon. And that's how he knows how to serialize that JSON he received from the server. And you also receive on success some kind of response. You can get the body, headers, and it's just basically a raw response. That's all regarding API. Now let's switch to some databases. First one is DbFlow. It's an ORM Android database library with annotation processing, which is extremely fast. It's really fast. It has a lot of fancy names like triggers, view, indexes, and so on and so on. But basically, the most important part, this library is approved by Jacob Pless, our famous celebrity from Infinum, and he really likes it. And I don't know, somewhere in this presentation, there's a link to his Android talks last time. Let's see how you used. I'm just going to show a quick overview. Let's say we have some kind of purge item model, and we want to save that to our database. You annotate that class with add table. Okay, DbFlow knows this will be a table. Each column in your database, you just annotate with add column. And okay, the DbFlow tells you, okay, this will be a column. You can also have some kind of members here which are not in the database. If you don't annotate them, okay, DbFlow would say just fine. So how to save it? It's extremely easy to save it. You just create a new item. We create here a new purge item, and we set the product ID, price, and everything we need, and we call the method save. This method is in this base model. As you can see, we have extended the base model. And after you call save, you can choose if you want to save this on main thread or on some other thread. And that's it. This is how you just saved one object in your database. It's extremely simple. If you want to select something from database, there's a method called new select. You tell, okay, from where? From purge item class and query list. It will return a list of objects in that database. You can also select a single object, and you can also add some kind of conditions and where clauses and so on and so on. But if you want more, check out Android Talks 9. I forgot to change this to Android Talks 9. As I said, Jericho is very fascinated with this library, and check out his presentation. Next one is Dblnspector. Before we had this library, we needed to see what's inside our database. We had to get it from the root of the phone. It's in a data/data folder, and your phone had to be rooted. So you get it out and you open it in some kind of SQL-like utils on your computer and so on. Then we check out, okay, this is, let's try it again. So Dino, our colleague Dino, created this library, which helps you view of your, basically in debug builds, it will create another launcher icon which will be called your app database. When you click it, you'll be able to browse through your database, your whole database. Also, it has CouchDB support, so it's nice. Check out Android Talks 5. Dino talks about it for, I don't know, 20 minutes and tells you all about the features here. Next one is Mockito. Actually, we use it to create readable unit tests, which are very, very clean and easy to use. Since we're really short with the time, I won't talk a lot about this, but the main thing, it's in top 10 Java libraries across all libraries. If you want to test anything, you need to use Mockito. And this top 10 Java libraries, it's this is a research done by GitHub. Basically, it's, I don't know, 8 or 9. It's widely used, so try it. And next one is also for testing. It's called Robolectric. It will help you create unit test framework, and it will handle your inflation of views, resources, and everything you need in your test classes. Basically, we like it and use it because you can run your test on your workstation or on your continuous integration environment. So check out their website, and it's really nice. Next one is OkHttp. Okay, basically this is not a testing library, but we use it to create mock web server. This is real nice. If you want to test your business logic, if it works okay with responses you receive and requests you send, you can create a mock web server, so you don't need to connect to your API. You can mock anything. You can basically mock anything, and if you use it with a Dagger, which we'll get to the Dagger, you can inject that instead of real API and test anything you want. You can also change the parameters to see how your app behaves when something is changed on the API. So next one, Crashlytics. We use it for crash reports. It's easy to use. Its user interface on web is really ugly, but it gives you great overview of all of your crashes in your application. Next thing, Eventbus. Basically, sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't. You'll have to decide when it's the best time to use this Eventbus. It works on subscriber event scheme. Basically, you subscribe to some kind of event, and when anyone sends it, you can receive it. Let's just see how to do it. You have to define some kind of event. Event is some kind of class. For example, we define here message event. And okay, register a subscriber. You can register activity, fragment, service, and so on. After you register it, you need to create a on-event method. It will throw an exception if you don't have an on-event method. And after that, anywhere in your code, in your adapters, in your views, anywhere you want, just call post and create a new object of message event. Every subscriber which is registered and has an on-event method which receives message event, it will receive that event. And then you can do anything you want with that. But just be careful when using this. If you ask me, this is the same thing as goto. So it can be very tricky. Just watch how you use it. Next thing is something that will change your life if you start using it. It's a Dagger. It's awesome. It's dependency injection for Android. This will make your each class in your app really testable. And you can create reusable modules by using it. It's really out of the scope for me to talk about how to use a Dagger. It's not easy to understand, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes your best friend. So check out their official site. And the last library we use is Joda Time. Basically, if you have ever worked in Java with a calendar class, it's pain in the ass, and it's not really good. So this provides a simple API, and what I was fascinated about it, it's under active development since 2002. So the API is really good. You can use a lot of good methods, and it will really replace your calendar class. But from Java 8, you don't need to use it. If you're lucky, or we on Android probably won't use it for next year or two. But if you're able to use Java 8, that's great. Use their new API classes for calendar, and they're awesome. Everything that was in Joda Time library, basically Oracle copied and added to their new API. That's it. Here are all the links for all these libraries I talked about, and check them out. The presentations will be available in a day or two. That's it. If you have any questions, ask me now, later, or send an email. Yes.
I have a question. Can you use the same model with distance and with DbFlow? Multiple annotations.
Yeah, okay, so the question is, can use multiple annotations on one module using a GSON and DbFlow? And the answer is yes. You can use both annotations. So use GSON and DbFlow. It won't crash, and you can use as much annotations as you want. So it will work. Anything else? Okay, guys. So that's it for me. Our colleague Vinković will now come, and he will teach us something about how to implement material design. Okay.
Zadnji slajd.
Zadnji slajd. Znači.
Čekaj da ga nađem.
Ne. Ljudi malo nezgodno da krenem iz zadnjeg slađa. Ali, ideja za iduću.
Hi everyone, I'm Filip and I'll talk about implementing material design, mostly about activity and fragment transitions, circular reveal, recycle view animations, and view page animations. First thing are activity and fragment transitions. So it basically there are four main, only four transitions that happen when a user starts activity B from activity A. The first transition is exit transition, which happens in activity A. When it starts activity B enters, and when the user presses the back button and returns to activity A, B goes through a return transition and A goes through re-enter transition. This is an example of those. Activity A exits and activity B enters the scene, and when we go back, activity B returns and activity A re-enters the scene. Transitions, basically there are two main transitions, which are content transitions and shared element transitions, and they are enabled by default if you use a material theme, or if you don't, you can enable it by calling get window, request feature, and pass a feature activity transition in your activity. Content transitions determine how non-shared elements exit or enter the scene. There are three transitions that exist in the framework. Those are explode, fade, and slide. And if you want to create your own transitions, you can extend the transitions class and implement your own. This is an example of those three transitions. And basically, when you want to start the content transition, when you start one activity from another, you create an intent and call start activity, pass that intent, and then call make scene transition animation. Basically, the make scene transition animation does all the work, and the only other thing you have to do is set your transitions if you don't want to use the default one. So in activity B, you can call set enter transition, set return transition, or set exit transition and set re-enter transition. For example, an enter transition could look like this. Basically, I create a slide transition and pass it a side of the screen which I want the view to slide to. I add a target to the transition, which is the view I want to move, and I set the duration to 1000 milliseconds, which defines how long the transition will last. The return transition is more complicated. If I want to create multiple transitions which run in parallel, I can add them to a transition set, and they will look like this, for example. So there are both content transitions and shared element transitions in this example. The shared element transition is this image which goes from activity A to activity B, and content transitions are the white and black backgrounds in this activity, which slides to top and to the bottom. So shared element transitions determine how shared elements are transferred from one activity to another, and therefore there exists NS 5.0 offers 4 basic transitions, which are the default ones when you start an activity with the shared element transition. To enable them, you have to set the transition name on your element which you want to share. You set it in the second activity in XML, or by calling set transition name on the view in your code. To start a shared element transition, in your activity A, in this example, I set a click listener to my grid view, and I create an activity options by calling make scene transition animation, and I send the current activity, the view which I want to share, and the third parameter is a string, which is my transition name, which I set to the image. I create an intent for the second activity. I put the image URL, and I start activity with that intent and options. When the activity B starts, I get the image URL from the intent, and I load it into my view. And the framework will do all the work and create the transition and move the shared element from one activity to another. The next animation is not a transition, but a basic animation, view animation. This circular reveal, which basically reveals one element or a group of elements or whatever. It's pretty simple to do. In this example, I create a method in which I fetch my view, which is an image view. I get the elements center, so start X, which is the X coordinate, and start Y, which is the Y coordinate. I calculate the final radius from the image's height and width, and I create an animator. Basically, I call the create circular reveal. I pass my image view, the center position of my image, the starting radius, which is 0, so it's not visible in the beginning, and final radius, which I want the view to reveal to. And I start the animation, and this is what happens. Okay, you saw it already. If you want to reveal a view on activity when the activity starts, you have to actually wait till the layout is measured and played out. And I do this by adding a global layout listener to a tree observer and then call the circular reveal. The other thing you can do in your application is create a recycler view animations. Basically, you can create animation to change how your list shows at the beginning. You can basically, this is done by creating an animation method and calling it in your adapter. In this example, I created a run enter animation, which takes a view parameter, which is one list item, and its position in the list. And I set the beginning properties. Here I set the translation X to move it out of the screen, and alpha to 0, so it's not visible. And when I animate the view, I set the translation X to 0 and alpha to 1. So it slides and fades in. And I set a start delay on each item. The delay is larger on each item, so one item is shown after another. Yeah, that's right. The delay causes them to gradually show. And the last thing I want to show you is view page animations. So you can create things like this. You can animate views, your elements, as the user swipes to the view pager. You do that by implementing page transformer interface, and you only need to implement one method, which is transform page. The transfer page takes a view parameter which represents the page in the view pager and the position. The position, the view pager calls this transform page method at each point as the user swipes through the view pager. And for example, based on the position, you can change the properties of your pages, so you can scale them up or down, and you can retrieve individual views from your page and change them. So in my example, I only changed the color of the background, or I faded out one element, and you can do pretty much whatever you want. Here are some links. First link is the demo of the application I created for this presentation. The second one is the best resource I found for content and shared element transitions. It's really in depth and it's still in the works, so it's great. And the third link is Instagram material design concept. It's basically a guy creating an Instagram with material design, and he implements all kinds of animations, and it's a really good resource to look at. And that's it for me. Any questions? Yes?
How much of this can you use in previous versions of Android?
Some things work, for example, circular reveal, but if you want to use content or shared element transitions, that won't really work. You can make some things work, but you either have to hack it, or if it works, it won't work really good. So basically, it's not really good for older versions than Lollipop. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
So, okay, we have 3 questions here. We'll answer them now. Just let me see how to go to messages screen. So, let's chat. No, that's Q&A. There's an error loading your app. Nice, Google, nice. It's your app, not mine. It will work. Okay. It's loading the questions. If you here have any questions, feel free to ask us. Okay, that was awkward. Come on, load. I'm not sure what's the issue. I'm just. Can you ask Rumas to get his computer here, since he has those questions? already accessed that. Pretty sure. Okay, I can see the questions now. So the first question is SMAC 4.1 for instant messaging over XMPP on Android. Basically, we never used XMPP servers, so I don't know. I can't answer on this one. That's done. Next one is RoboSpice Retrofit combination. Well, I know that RoboSpice is for asynchronous threads, and we have tried RoboSpice and we have tried Retrofit, but we haven't tried to combine it. And I can't answer: is it great? Is it good? Is it working? And so on. Can you please call Kušt? And next one, what do you think about RoboSpice? Well, RoboSpice is great, but we didn't use it on much projects. We kind of switched to Retrofit and it's HTTP calls and it's callbacks, so it's working really fine for us for now. So that's it. We think it's great, but we don't use it that much.
Okay, the last question is about Groovy runtime size. It increases the final size of the app a lot. Well, I've shown you the table with the compared app sizes. Other than that, I can't say anything more. I mean, anything. It's like it won't increase your application size. It's a constant that's added. I don't know. So you get 1.6 megabytes if you additional size if you're using Groovy, and that's it. No matter how much code you add, that's going to be a constant. That's all I can say about it. Okay. Yeah, that's all of the questions. So, leader of the Android talks.
Okay, this is the end of the broadcast. Thank you for watching. Bye.